Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment. I only have one question. Where is
Deepwoken lore?
This is probably my most important video to date, not in terms of relevance to my channel, but to the Deepwoken lore at large. It's become increasingly clear recently that the time period our character washes up in is in a new age of sorts. While this may seem promising, like with the Deepwoken equivalent of Jesus, it's actually the opposite. Our arrival followed the catastrophic downfall of humanity. Once humans were a prosperous people wielding the song's magic to astounding effect during a period named the Canticlysm, but we flew too close to the sun and were burned, or more accurately, drowned. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You'll have to watch all the way to the end to grasp just what I'm talking about here and more. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Remember to like and subscribe if you're interested in Deepwoken's lore. Without further ado, thank you for the support, and let's begin. So, the world we wake up in, or should I say wash up in, is mainly defined by the sea. Minecraft is a game about mining and crafting, Deepwoken is a game about the deep ocean expanse and trying to wake up every morning knowing conquest will be delayed again. Jokes aside, it's hard to imagine the world of Deepwoken without massive bodies of water dividing everything apart. However, this was actually the reality sometime before our player character washes up at the dock of Etris. In fact, Deepwoken's world was formerly composed of large landmasses and human settlements that primitively resembled the societies spread across the world in today's age. However, as I'm sure you can tell, something went very, very wrong. In fact, it was humanity's own hubris that led to their downfall. We overused the song and advanced too far. Once these ancient humans metaphorically drowned in their own prosperity, the ancient gods made sure the living literally drowned. The tides came, saw, and conquered this golden age of humans, leaving nothing in its wake. However, if you want more than that very much shortened description of the Cataclysm, you'll have to read the Studies on Canticlysm Volume 4. It's quite lengthy, but don't flee at the sight of some reading. I'll read it aloud and then break it down. Perhaps we'll even unveil some secrets once we reach the end of the tale, but that's neither here nor there for now. Grab some popcorn, and let's dive in. From what we know, the old world took the form of 5 major landmasses. In those days, the luminants were mostly contiguous, with what was known as the world's edge delineating its circumference. The world's edge, of course, is what we now call the Void Sea, and from their histories we can attest that it was equally impassable in their day as it is in ours. The skies are also said to have been clearer, seemingly devoid of the outstretched fingers of void fog that have blotted out our stars and confounded our instruments for centuries. The void fog is, of course, one of many lesser-known effects of the tides. With the naked eye, they appear merely as clouds. Any observer who paid enough attention would realize that these formations are fixed in relative space, moving across our skies in a cycle. When observed through a telescope, the lensing effect becomes apparent, the light seeming to bend and distort around it. In these broad and interrupted lands, its people live lives of plenty, well fed from their expansive farmland and connected by a flourishing network of trade. Many comparisons can be drawn between their way of life and that of the Felinor field folk of Markor, a topic that has been well documented by our cousins at the Citadel. And far beneath these plentiful lands, deeper in those days, lurked the danger that we now know to be the source of our maladies, the depths. What little accounts we have dredged up of these outer planes in the times before the threat became apparent seem to have largely persisted in the realms of folklore and mythology. Tales of sea monsters emerging from the depths of the ocean were often recanted on dark, stormy nights, some having more foundation than others. Furthermore, though the song had not yet been discovered, its effects could still be seen. In the years before the Cataclysm, strange creatures would sometimes be found on the shores, pale gelatinous flesh stretched over their bones, seemingly due to decompression. Bearing no visible relation to any of the animal life they had yet documented, these creatures were kept for research and dissected. Those that lived were unresponsive and did not last long in captivity, seeming to lack some form of nutrition. With the creatures often came strange trinkets, artifacts of civilizations that did not belong to the surface world. It is thought it is through the noble's fascination with these artifacts that the song was first discovered. What began as a faint whisper heard only by those attuned soon grew into an enthralling melody that was never far away. Even the mere snippets of it that the researchers had retrieved were potent and intoxicating, seeming to promise something ever deeper and ever greater than what they had ever known. And in capturing the song and trying to replicate its melodies, strange phenomena began to occur. In the dingy basement of a tavern, a practicing musician's viola burst into flames. A temple erected in service to the growing religion surrounding this newfound song has a steeple struck by lightning in the middle of their morning prayers. Those that memorized more and more of the song's tone seemed to gain an ever greater understanding of the world around them and of the powers that drove it. It took a mere generation after its discovery for a renaissance of technology and culture to blossom forth. This great era became known as the Canticlysm, the advent and heyday of the song. With an easily accessible source of power that came at seemingly no cost beyond one's stamina, mundane tasks were swiftly trivialized. As with early man's discovery of the means to start a fire, the discovery of its manipulation through the song, known as flame charming, was similarly fundamental in uplifting the world's technology. Contraptions and new technologies could be fueled simply by the energy of its user, and the greatest asset to mankind's progress soon became so-called song work. Song workers were instructed in the use of a limited subset of flame charming, and were put to work powering machines and foundries. Concentration was vital, and safety was often cast aside in favor of greater efficiency, costing many song workers their lives. As new processes were developed to advance technology, song workers were saddled with ever-increasing workloads. The descent of the laborers grew with every passing day. Given a taste of the song, the very powers of creation were dangled like a carrot on a string in front of them. Laborers began to gather in secret in the few hours they were afforded to rest a day, pooling their experience together and furthering their understanding of flame charming. It's sometimes mused that in these times, the lowliest song worker had a better grasp of the song than the loftiest academic did. While scholars lounged and ruminated on its potential, the laborers were made to use it every minute of the day, coming to know it through intuition. With a growing network of support among the laborers, talk of an uprising soon spread across the factories of the world. Unable to hide their anxiety, the ruling class sought to make an example of the dissidents, and with the execution of a prominent labor activist, they lit the spark that would soon ignite revolution. Armed with the song, many song workers soon earned their rights through fire and blood. Those governments, unable to smother the embers of rebellion, were toppled and replaced, though not always for the better. Wise to the power the workers held, the long-forgotten arts of vows were resurrected by the surviving powers, now forcing the song workers of many nations into lifelong servitude. Widespread devastation exacted on the world by the wars waged through the song, many did not fully realize the changes that were coming to it. The creatures that emerged from the seas were no longer pallid, comatose things, and were now presenting a growing threat to the peoples of seaside settlements. In time, this threat spread even further inland. Year after year, record flood highs were reached. Mass evacuations sparked across the world, its people frantic to escape a catastrophe they hadn't foreseen. But in their flight, they did not abandon the song. As the tides drew in ever closer, they held it as tightly to their chests as a prayer book. Seeking the fabled mountaintops of the world's spine, the song's tides carried the people higher and higher. Where pastures and orchards had once sustained a vast population, the mountain peaks could never sustain nearly enough. Mankind's understanding withered as its population dwindled. Without fervent research into the song and its applications, technological advancements ground to a halt. Despite the relative abandonment of the song, the tides never stopped rising, and the edge of the world hemmed itself inwards. This edge, the Void Sea, soon extended its fingers into the oceans, no longer seas that parted the continents of the world. Where once the Void Sea had been a border between the known and the unknown, it now drew its borders between the nations of the world, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle to cross. Okay, so that's a lot, and I mean a lot. I'll break down the major points for those of you at home. To begin with, we get a definitive description of the world before the tides separated all the land masses into islands. Instead of the luminance that Deepwoken's world is currently divided into, the world was mostly composed of large chunks of land with no clear borders that blended into one another. The skies were also clearer. This text touches on the concept of the void fog, which was essentially something the tides would propel into the air to assumedly confuse and disorient sailors, most likely attempting to trick them into sailing deep into the Void Sea. Humans were not gripped by conflict amongst one another and creatures from the depths. In fact, such monsters were so uncommon that they were mere fairy tales. For instance, telling your kid about the monstrous sharko that'll get you if you don't eat your vegetables. Personally, as a crippling calabash addict, I always eat my vegetables, but that's besides the point. Generally, the world was safer before the tides rolled in and flooded the world at large. In essence, humanity became privy to the song, which in simple terms means that humans were exposed to the essence of Deepwoken's magic. What I find most interesting is that the song is actually identified as a literal sound. The first instance of the song being utilized by humans was actually someone channeling the song through a violin. Flame charm is also revealed to be the first attunement, harping from the first creation of fire that's associated with the birth of mankind. However, this is where the real interesting story lies, hidden in the midst of this text, because the truth behind the golden age told to us by whispers are lies, not white lies but red, as the foundation of this golden age is soaked in the blood of innocence. As the song was largely unexplored, the knowledge of magic was not in the hands of the scholars. While they studied apartheid from the rest of society, the lower class citizens began to depend on the song for daily tasks. As the song was integrated within the work of these laborers, they became experts on its every function. This stands as the stark opposite of Deepwoken's current society, as in our current age, knowledge is power, and knowledge is held by the scholarly. Once these workers, dubbed songworkers, realized that they held the power and understanding of the song and magic at large, ripples of resistance sounded through the camps of the laborers. Following the execution of a large figure in the community of songworkers, the songworkers themselves launched a rebellion against the scholarly oppressors, apparently earning their rights through blood. Too busy waging wars using the song, mankind failed to notice that the creatures washing up from the depths were evolving. They were monsters. As these monsters piled up on land, the sea rose with them, and eventually, the tide consumed everything, splitting the world into islands and massively reducing the size of humanity, alongside their understanding of the song. Here's what you've been waiting for. I skipped over one key fact contained in that text, that to counter the uprising made by the workers wielding the song, the higher powers turned to vows to control the people. Think of the vow of mastery. The earliest example of a vow were the hereditary vows, agreements that resulted in the creation of the animal-based races we see today in-game. I'm sure you've been wondering, if the old practitioners of the song understood so much of the song itself, surely they were stronger than we are currently. So how did they allow the monsters from the depths to push them back? My theory is that they had no choice. In one way or another, the rebelling workers entered vows that prevented them from eradicating the mob invasion. So, this could have been done through religion or other forms of magic, but regardless, the question stands. What human would do this? What human would stand on the side of the depths? And that's where I'll leave this video. It's deliberately open-ended, so feel free to speculate on who influenced the world's mass drowning yourselves, whether you think it was the contractors, the Krulians, or another party. Sorry if I sound weird this video, I think I'm quite sick, but daily videos, so you get this one anyways. Thank you for the endless support and the insane growth we've been experiencing over here. I really don't know how to thank you guys. So stay well, stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next video.